My twin brother cheated with my wife by pretending to be me, but their betrayal exposed a shocking secret. Hey Reddit. My twin brother and I always had an unbreakable bond. Growing up, people constantly mixed us up, and we played along with it, switching places for pranks and getting away with things no one else could. But as we got older, the novelty of being identical twins wore off. I built my own life, fell in love, and married my wife, Emily, while my brother, Jake, stayed in his reckless ways. He had always been the charming, carefree one, jumping from one relationship to the next without a second thought. I never imagined he would cross the ultimate line. It started subtly. Emily began acting differently, more distant, more reserved. At first, I chalked it up to stress or maybe something at work, but then it turned into something more. She flinched when I touched her, avoided eye contact, and seemed guilty every time I walked into the room. I asked if something was wrong, but she always brushed it off. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that my wife, the woman I had vowed to spend my life with, wouldn't betray me. Then came the little things that didn't add up. She called me at work one day, saying she had just seen me at the grocery store, but I had been in a meeting for hours. Another time, she mentioned a conversation we had about taking a weekend trip to the lake, something I had never discussed with her. I thought she was just misremembering things, but deep down, my gut told me something was off. The breaking point came when I came home early from work one evening. I walked through the front door, expecting to see Emily cooking dinner or relaxing on the couch, but instead, I heard hushed voices coming from our bedroom. My heart pounded as I crept closer, my hands clammy, my mind screaming at me to turn back. But I had to know. I had to see it for myself. When I pushed open the door, my world shattered. Emily was in bed with someone, tangled in the sheets that were supposed to be ours. But the worst part? It wasn't just anyone. It was Jake. My own twin brother. My own flesh and blood. The moment they saw me, their faces turned pale. Emily gasped, yanking the covers around herself, while Jake just sat there, stunned. I wanted to scream, to punch him, to tear everything apart, but I was frozen in place. I could barely process what I was seeing, but then something even more disturbing hit me. Emily wasn't looking at me with the guilt of someone who had been caught cheating. She was looking at me like she was confused. Like she thought she was caught with the right person. That's when it hit me. Jake had been pretending to be me. The realization made my stomach churn. I had heard of twisted stories before, but never in my wildest nightmares did I think my own twin would stoop so low. Emily clutched the sheets to her chest, shaking her head. She kept saying my name, asking why I was acting like this. It was as if she genuinely believed she had been with me all along. I turned to Jake, rage boiling inside me. How long had this been going on? How many times had he snuck into my life, taken my place, fooled my wife? He didn't even try to deny it. He just looked at me with that smug expression, the one I had seen so many times when we were kids, when he got away with things while I took the fall. You don't understand, he said, his voice calm in a way that made my blood boil. This isn't what you think. Not what I think? I exploded. You pretended to be me and slept with my wife. How the hell do you expect me to take that? Emily looked between us, her face crumbling with realization. Oh my God, she whispered, her hands shaking. She turned to Jake, her voice breaking. You mean? You're not? That's when the tears came. She wasn't just guilty, she was horrified. She had thought she was with me the whole time. My stomach twisted in knots. The idea that my own brother had manipulated my wife this way, that he had taken advantage of the fact that we looked alike, made me feel sick. I had no idea what to do. I was angry at Jake, but I was also devastated for Emily. She wasn't just a cheater, she was a victim of his deception. But then another thought struck me, something even more terrifying. How many other times had he done this? My mind raced back to all the little things, all the moments that hadn't made sense. The times Emily mentioned conversations I didn't remember, the weird looks she sometimes gave me, the way she pulled away from my touch like something felt off. Had Jake been doing this for months? Years? I turned to him, my fists clenched. How long? I demanded. How many times have you done this? Jake just smirked. Does it matter? My vision blurred with rage. I lunged at him, my fists colliding with his face before I could even think. He barely fought back, laughing like it was all some kind of sick joke. But to me, it wasn't a joke. He had destroyed my marriage, my trust, my sense of reality. Emily sobbed behind me, her whole body shaking as she realized the depth of the betrayal. She begged for my forgiveness, swearing she never meant to hurt me. And deep down, I knew she hadn't. She had been manipulated, just like I had. But that didn't erase the pain. That didn't undo the damage. I left that night, unable to look at either of them. I needed space to think, to process what had just happened. I sat in my car for hours, staring at the steering wheel, my mind spinning. What kind of person does something like this? How could my own brother betray me in such a sick, twisted way? But as I sat there, another thought crept into my mind. What if this wasn't the first time he had done something like this? I started digging, going back through old messages, old conversations. And the more I looked, the more horrifying it became. There were gaps in my memory, moments where things didn't add up. Friends mentioning things I had supposedly done, places I had supposedly been. And then I found something that made my blood run cold. An old message from an ex-girlfriend, years ago, accusing me of cheating on her with one of her friends. I had been so confused at the time, swearing I had never even met the girl. But now, I realized the truth. Jake had been pretending to be me for years. Emily was just the latest victim. My whole world felt like a lie. My own brother had been stealing my life, my relationships, my identity. I felt sick to my stomach, betrayed in a way I couldn't even put into words. I knew one thing for sure, I would never let him get away with it again.